Okay. All right, we are on. So I will go ahead and call roll. Mr. Pahovich,
Here.
Ms. Trabellis,
Here.
Mr. Dove,
Here.
Mr. McNulty,
Here.
and Mr. Pierce.
Here.
Okay, great. We have a full quorum. If I may, I'd like to read the legal notice.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Notice is hereby given that the Orange Township Zoning Commission will hold a special meeting on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider the following application. The Route 23 Corridor Overlay District application number RCOD 20-02 of TBM Investments LTD, requesting a final development plan on Owenfield Drive having parcel numbers 318-324-11007-004 and 318-324-11007-005. And the development includes townhomes and multifamily resident units to be known as Cheswick Village. And just a note for the record, this is a public meeting. However, there is no public comment. So if anybody that tunes in on our YouTube page does have any comments, we will include our email address in the chat room and we will pass those comments along to the Board of Trustees for their hearing. So before we begin, since this is the first meeting of the year, and we can either hold off or we can decide now, but we do need to discuss if we want to, how we want to elect a new chair or vice chair. So if the commission wants to act on that now, I don't see why we couldn't get it started for the year, but if they want to hold off, just asking the board as a whole.
Yeah, I think, Michelle, we can just go ahead and vote on that or discuss it now, just so we have it set. If everybody's okay with that.
We might as well do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no objections.
I nominate Adam for chair.
I
Second that.
second. If he's happy to keep the job, he can have it.
All right, Adam,
Happy to do
are you happy to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So motion made by Mr. McNulty to elect Adam Pahovich as chair of the zoning commission, second by Mr. Pierce. Those voting, Mr. Pahovich,
Yes.
Mr. Bellis,
Yes.
Mr. Dove,
Yes.
Mr. McNulty,
Yes.
and Mr. Pierce.
Yes.
Okay. And then who wants to be vice chair? So I think Todd was the vice chair and he sadly, or no, was it Christine or Todd?
Dennis.
Oh, Dennis, I'm sorry. Okay, so
Todd
Dennis is still the vice chair.
And then I was the vice chair, and I think now it's Dennis. And
Okay.
Dennis, are you happy with the job? Would you like to continue?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right, then I nominate Dennis as vice chair.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Bellis to nominate Dennis McNulty as vice chair, second by Mr. Pahovich. Those voting, Mr. Pahovich,
Yes.
Ms. Trabellis,
Yes.
Mr. Dove,
Yes.
Mr. McNulty,
Yes.
and Mr. Pierce.
Yes.
All right. Well, congrats on the chair and vice chair. We are happy, as always, for you to be part of the board. And I know I made a comment of this the last meeting, but Todd Dove is unfortunately leaving the zoning commission, but we thank him for his service. And I'm sure he will stay in touch and be an active resident.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can't get rid of me.
Keep in touch.
Yes. Okay. So now we can move forward with the application this evening for the work session for the 23 overlay applications. We just have this one application. And just to give an overview, this is on the property at the south of Home Depot. I know in the past years we've had several inquiries on this site, and it's finally seeing something come to fruition now. So if the applicant is interested in giving a brief overview, we could go from there, and then we can take comments from the board.
Good evening. I'm Todd Ferris with Ferris Planning and Design. Tonight we have Tom Bell, who's the developer, as well as Mike Shade, the attorney, and then Anna Vigetes, which is with Ferris Planning and Design. We're here to answer questions in regards to this application. I know you guys have seen this many times before. This is probably the least dense you've ever seen this. And only 2 stories, which is a good thing. We did meet informally and got comments from you folks a little while ago. Hopefully you have seen in the packet that we've responded to those and incorporated those into the package. I know there's other comments that we received from the staff that in general we're in agreement with. The only thing that we still have to work out is this sidewalk connection along the private internal roadway that kind of services the Steak and Shake and the car wash and Home Depot. Because everything that we do out here, we have to get Home Depot's approval as well. And we have not been able to run that by them yet to get a determination, but we will do that once we have this meeting tonight and see what other comments we might have so we can give them a package with everything in it at once. Because I think they're getting, as Tom said, we can only go to them so many times before they stop listening to us. So we want to do it one last time. Again, 2-story townhomes, 56 units on this site. Generally, I think we're complying with most of the requirements. There's a few divergences we are asking for, which staff has noted, and I'm sure we'll go through tonight. But there's nothing egregious on this site plan. So is that brief enough, Michelle? Yeah.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah.
Will you have approval from Home Depot before you go in front of the trustees?
Yes. We've got approval for this site plan right now,
Okay.
the way it is. It's just in case you guys came up with something else tonight other than that 5-foot sidewalk, we want to make sure that we can get in front of them with everything before the trustees.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to present that architecturally or not, Michelle,
Yeah.
I'll the format on this one.
No, it's okay. I mean, just just to give background to the commission members, we had our technical review meeting. When was that? Oh, December. It was before the new year. So December 29th, and the regional planning, our planning consultant, Holly Maddie, and the staff from the fire department and the zoning office did provide several comments from the meeting. And then the following day, we met with the applicant to go over each one of these comments. And we did ask them to provide a response, as Todd Ferris said, and they do agree to comply with a majority of these. And the only question, or the only thing standing, as Todd mentioned, was the connectivity. And just to bring that up a little more, the township zone, or our office, requested more of a pedestrian connection amongst the adjacent uses. Now we know Home Depot has very specific things that they want, so there might be there is a barrier to doing connectivity there, but at least having some connectivity to the Steak and Shake and the other commercial uses around. So the applicant seems to be working on that. And I think that's it. We have had some public comments, and I did forward you one that we got in writing a few hours ago. And so I want to bring that up too, but I think that we'll start with the commission's comments first, Adam, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you want to go over some of those comments? I'm sorry, I missed that last one.
Well, I mean, I don't know if the commission members have any comments from the technical review. A lot of this is very minute, and there was just some technical issues and things that we noticed that were inconsistent that needed to be addressed. There were a few extra divergences added after reviewing the text, but the staff doesn't believe any of them are substantial. I think the biggest thing which we asked for the applicant to provide prior to this meeting tonight is a sightline diagram, as this does abut a residential district. And those residents have started to reach out to us. So I think having this diagram showing this type of screening will be beneficial.
Yeah, and we have two conditions basically on the site where the mound is, which is the top section, and then the bottom section, which is where the existing stream and wooded area is. So that's why we provided both of these so we can see what's in there. And obviously those comments that we received from one of the citizens, which we can go over later, addresses that bottom section.
Okay, that's good, because I think, I guess let's take a touch on that now. I haven't been on the site, so I haven't personally seen it, but his concern is that the mound isn't consistently the same size throughout. And so in some of the trees haven't fully bloomed over the years. And, are all the homes along this property going to have the full screening as what's proposed here?
Why wouldn't that be the same screening that was required of Home Depot?
It is the same screening because it exists there today, Dennis. What's there right now? Now, the mound doesn't extend all the way to the south. I don't know the history of that, but I think it's because there was an existing wooded area, because that's where it stops.
Yeah. Right, but there was lots of demands placed on Home Depot for that mound.
Right.
I kind of remember that project. I actually live in that neighborhood just to the west.
Okay.
So yeah, that was real serious that although Home Depot would have had trucks and a lot more traffic and a lot more lights than this potentially would have, but I remember that was an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and that 8-foot fence does extend down there. I think one of the concerns of the resident was that it needs some care, which we're going to move forward and take care of that, repair it. There's some down trees, it sounds like, that we need to deal with too, that's on the property. And they've asked if there's a possibility for some additional screening, basically along that southeast corner of our site, which I think what I want to do is reach out to that resident directly and maybe go out there in the next day or so we can figure out the best way of doing it. They're thinking evergreen trees, maybe some fencing, which I think are all great ideas. I just want to be on site before I commit to any of that to you guys tonight, since I've only had an hour to look.
And just out of curiosity, if with traffic studies, what is the traffic limitations for Owenfield Drive for just the service road? If you happen to know that, if you do, great. If you don't, I understand.
I don't even know if I understand the question exactly.
Well,
but
I'm just kind of trying to consider this community probably wouldn't have as much traffic as the retail along Owenfield, Meyer, Home Depot.
No, not even close. Multifamily is one of the lowest uses for traffic generation that's in that, that's out there, even less than single family, and commercial for sure. Because if this site would have been, I can remember how many acres we're talking about. If it had 80,000 square feet of retail on it, that would have been a lot of traffic compared to 56 units. But the capacity of Owenfield's it's a large collector-sized street. So there's plenty of capacity on Owenfield Drive.
Okay, one thing I can see just from living here and using Owenfield is that the traffic most days bottles up at the entrance to Meyer from the traffic light at 23 and the entrance to Meyer and Owenfield in both directions.
Yeah.
And that your community is just to the north of that slightly, so that'll be added to, but that's for somebody to decide whether that's going to need a traffic light, because already it can be in bad shape. Yeah.
And obviously in this location, they're able to use that exit that's kind of north of Home Depot, as well as the one at Meyer and the one down on Powell Road as well, if they go down south down there.
And then you have the ride only that's next to Panera.
Yeah.
It takes you straight out to 23.
Owenfield's a Delaware County road, correct?
It's either a township or, it's probably maintained by the county. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a township. It's a public road. So,
But I mean, with respect to somebody deciding if something with regard to traffic would be needed, whose decision would that be? Would that be Delaware County?
Yes.
We rely on the county engineering for traffic studies, yeah, or traffic review.
And there
Yeah.
was a traffic impact study or analysis that was submitted with this, correct?
Yes.
I think there was.
If I could just interject, I believe Powell Road is a state highway. I believe it's 750. And therefore it would be subject to review by ODOT also.
Interesting.
And we did submit traffic.
You did.
Yeah. Tab 7, Exhibit G1. We've met with Mike Love. The big thing for them, because originally we had our entrance on Owenfield Drive because that's where Home Depot wanted it. And they said, absolutely not. You have to use that service road. So we've been, down that road with them. But as far as the traffic counts on this, it's pretty minuscule for peak hour.
Thank you.
Can we go back to the sightline drawing, Michelle? And this is more for probably future, because I honestly think this is the best option that we've seen on this parcel since I've been on the zoning commission. And like Todd says, we have had many come through here at 10 units per acre. Is the single family home that's being shown, Todd, is that a ranch or is that a 2-story?
Good question. It's just
No, the single stories back there are typically 2 stories.
okay. Yeah, so it would actually be taller than that. It would be the same height as what ours would be then.
Yeah, so moving forward, since you do a lot of these presentations and applications, it'd probably be good to represent what's actually there.
Okay.
I know the one resident that we got information from that Michelle forwarded today was a ranch home, but if we're actually going to represent what's there and what's being seen, it'd probably be good to represent that.
Yeah, good point.
That's Glenside Drive in High Meadows Village, Green Meadows Village.
Todd,
And then,
Todd Ferris, would you be able to modify that to show a 2-story home for the
Oh, yeah.
trustees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
because we've heard that before of, we see the lights from the car wash from our second floor, and it'd be good just to prove that you can, or probably not in the summer because of the trees, but in the winter you probably can. And
Right. It's kind of hard to hide everything in the winter.
it is what it is.
That
Yeah.
was why there was lots of issues with Home Depot putting up the mound and building it higher
Right.
when that was built 10 years
Then,
ago.
then
15
regarding
years
the
ago.
fence in terms of visibility, you talked about potentially fixing the parts that have been destroyed by trees. Is there
Yeah.
any intention of raising the height of that fence so that it's consistent across that mound?
To be honest with you, we have not contemplated that. An 8-foot tall fence is pretty tall as it is.
Right.
Any taller than that, we probably need to get a structural engineer involved, just from a wind loading standpoint. So, and I don't know what the township allows, to be honest with you, but.
My only concern was, and if you go back to the landscape plan you had earlier, we were talking about the mounding. There is like a ravine creek, which where you have colored in the southeast portion of the property. And I thought there was sort of a no-fill, no-build protected area along that ravine.
Yeah, there is.
So I'm not sure how, I know the residents concerned about access there, but I'm not sure how you can put a mound and a fence through a ravine.
Yeah, I don't
to
think we-
protect the creek.
That's a good point, Christine. I think we're probably talking more either some physical barrier like they're talking about of evergreen trees closely spaced, or a fence that kind of almost follows that pathway that goes, well, where Michelle's been scribbling. You see that pathway down there? Because I can't go farther south because there is a stream and a stream corridor protection zone. I can't go down there.
Exactly. And so I think if you meet with the property owner, you might want to remind him of that a mound and a fence is not appropriate in that area. You might be able to put in some landscaping, but that's going to depend upon the topography and what
Yep.
it allows you to do. And I would definitely not recommend altering the topography for that, protected creek bed.
No, and we can't.
So,
that's
I
like,
just-
yeah.
And once again, the Old and Tangy watershed standards, no matter what kind of stream it's defined to be, is a non-disturbance.
Yeah, it's ephemeral. We know what it is. So,
yeah.
That's the lowest class, and it's still non-disturbance.
right.
Yeah, I think this is all like to the community. This is a really great point to bring up because I mean, if there are concerns with the screening, there are limitations from a federal level,
Exactly.
state level.
Exactly.
So
The property owner might not be aware of it, but that's why we can't put a fence there.
mhm.
Yeah.
Now, and he noted the property owner in his letter was concerned about the sanitary sewer lines going over that creek path, and so he's aware that that's a protected area, but I guess he didn't quite put two and two together. Because I too have also questioned the sanitary sewers. I know it's been done before. I can't believe you have to go all the way to Home Depot to hook up to a manhole and a sanitary line, that there isn't something on the, you have to go to Myers, that there isn't something on the Home Depot or by Steak and Shake to tie into.
Yeah,
So,
right
you
now, the tributary area is to the south. So if we have to go over there and grab those, it'd be minimal disturbance, but then we have to restore and mitigate. So
Okay,
have a
so you
very
have no
minimal
choice in that
impact.
option.
Yeah, very minimal impact. So
Okay. Yeah.
Do you guys
Yeah, 'cause
recall
that
what
is-
do you all recall what the distance from the stream is? I guess, is there like a buffer that is no build, like so
yeah, 30
feet from
foot minimum from the center line.
30 feet? Okay.
Both sides.
Yeah, so
Both
60.
sides of the stream. So it's 30 feet from both sides of the stream that there could not be anything built. So no fencing or mounding.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a no build zone down there too, but it doesn't follow the stream. So we don't understand exactly how that got
What's
defined,
the-
but whatever. There's two things down there.
Was the original mound, was the mound originally put there by Home Depot? Is that the way I understand that?
I think so. It probably, yes. I don't think it was here before Home Depot.
Okay. And then the question is whether or not, just kind of over the years, I presume it's probably, I don't know if it was required to be at a certain height or something like that, just through time. Is there a need to restore it at a certain height, or is that part of the plan, or that's not something that's necessarily looked into?
I don't have an answer for you on that. I know that the 8-foot high fence is still there, and that's a very significant mound. So I'm going on the reliance that it met the zoning when it was installed. And that we're
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it, of course, over time, things may shrink or what have you, go down. I don't know if it served the original purposes that the neighbors had originally, but just over time it kind of eroded, and whether or not there's value in restoring it, if there was a requirement that it had to be a certain height or what have you, that you validate and maybe restore it.
It all looks pretty well grassed, so I don't think it's lost any height, and the trees on it, as the neighbor points out, have gotten fairly large because some people have decided they needed to cut them down because they were too big.
Okay.
So, my guess is it still is what it was supposed to be, but that's conjecture.
So Todd Ferris, so if I'm hearing this correctly, I think, kind of touching on what the resident's letter had stated, anything existing that you're planning on keeping to remain, whether it's the 8-foot fence or some of this, the evergreens for screening, anything like that, if it's in disrepair or needs fixed or, replaced, whatever, you guys are willing to obviously go through and do those things as needed. I think he had a picture of a tree that looked pretty dead, but it was
Yeah.
hard to tell. But
Yeah.
I don't imagine that's every tree out there. But if there are, dead trees or anything like that, that will be cleaned up if it's being used as part of, a buffer or screening or something along those lines, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. And I know in the staff letter, you had also responded, that you're fine with painting the chain link fence black that surrounds the detention basin. But the same goes with that. Obviously, which I don't think there is, but if there was any, damaged portions or anything like that, that would obviously be repaired.
Yeah.
I actually,
Oh,
Okay.
go on.
right, I was gonna, since you brought up the detention basin, I was gonna bring that up as well. And I think maybe there's some clarification that needs to be, because when I was looking over the calculations that you had for water runoff, that your stormwater engineer provided, it seemed like it didn't all add up. And the letter from the county engineer seemed to imply that you're gonna have to modify that detention basin anyway. Because right now it just accommodates sort of the steak and shake in that area. It doesn't take into account your new paved surface and your new impervious surface due to your site improvements with the houses and things of that nature, townhouses. So my point being is, if you're going to have to modify that detention pond anyway, and our township zoning does not really approve of chain link fences, aren't you going to have to replace portions of that fence?
Well, good.
If you're going to have to replace portions of the fence, perhaps it should be replaced per zoning.
Yeah, if we have
and
to get
not
in there, if we have to get in there and mess with it, I don't disagree with that. And Tom could probably answer this more than I can, but I think the shortfall that we are on detention, we're proposing to do underground chambers on our site and dealing with it that direction.
So where is underground chambers going to go?
They're going on the north, in that green space between Home Depot and those units. up
Okay,
there.
okay.
So that's going to be some type of like isolator row or something that
Yeah.
you're putting underground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just assumed that you were using, because when I looked at your stuff, it said, that you were using part of it. Part of it had another 3 acres, but it looked like you were missing 3 or 4 acres of stormwater drainage based on your calculations. So I assumed that has to be accounted for somewhere. And the county engineer implied that you're going to have to modify your detention bed. Because I do not fully support fixing up and spray painting the chain link fence. I don't think that that's really going to be a, asset to this green space that you have this nice little walking path on, and you're providing with, amenities like that. And then you have a 6 foot tall or 5 foot tall chain link fence. I question keeping the chain link fence and not replacing it with something more appropriate.
I don't disagree with you by
Okay,
any,
that's just my 2 cents out there.
I don't disagree with you by any means. We're kind of dealt that hand by the county. It was their requirement to begin with. We actually wanted to get rid of that. Is there a real need for that? Because that was one of the first comments we received from your board, and we approached them and they said, no, that's got to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I would just assume get rid of the fence as well. I understand in some cases they're necessary for safety purposes. So, people don't wander into a water area like that, fine. But there are a lot more attractive examples in the township than chain link. And for a walking path to border a chain link fence, I don't know if that's that inviting, put it that way.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that we asked during the initial review was, what does the county engineer's office require? What is the height? What is the type? I'm not sure that we ever got an answer to that question. So does it have to be this chain link fence, or is there something else that the county engineer will accept?
That's a good question. I don't know if Tom has an answer to that. I know I don't have an answer to that because he's been dealing with that. Tom?
No, I don't know the answer either. I know we would like to eliminate the fence, but we're told that the maintenance department at Delaware County will not permit it, so.
We can follow up with them,
Okay.
Yeah,
find out if they will accept something different. I mean, spray painting it black is obviously the the bottom of the totem pole. I get it.
Yeah,
And that's a
But-
good, I mean, that's a good point. So if you do, if you do have to do some stormwater improvements and you have to take down the fence and put it back up, I mean, does it have to be that black chain link, or can it be
Yeah,
something that's a little
A picket
more
fence.
aesthetically, pleasing?
Right.
So,
Right, or if it has to be chain link, well, they let us put in a vinyl coated one then, so it looks a little bit better than spray paint on.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Holly, maybe, because I don't know if we're going to have that answer by the trustee meeting, or, if they do have to tear down the fence or not, or tear down a portion. I mean, is it something that we can just have in the stipulations, or, if the fence is taken down by any means, it will just have to comply with our standards? I mean,
Yeah, I would hope that the engineer's office could at least give us an answer that if it does have to be torn down, it can be this type of fence, or these are the choices of fences you can have, and this is the height it has to be. And then we can incorporate that into the stipulations approved by the trustees.
okay.
That's
yeah,
fair.
I'm just, if it has to come down or portions thereof. And I can't imagine the requirement being chain link because it's contrary to our zoning code. So got to be some sort of middle ground somewhere. And if y'all can look into it, that's fine. I just want to put my 2 cents in with that detention area or retention area and the chain link fence.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
We wanted it gone.
the
We
other
really.
The other question I had for you, Todd, was parking and your parking numbers and your parking counts, and I couldn't quite figure it out. So it looks like these are townhomes and they have a 1-car garage, correct? And then they have a parking spot on the driveway in front of the garage. So each home has basically 2 parking spots, and then there's guest parking spots.
Yeah, we put.
And I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like you put in some guest parking spots, but when I counted, it looked like they didn't add up to what your number was. So 1, I want you to double check it. And 2,
Okay.
my only concern is that these are basically, there's no parking on these internal roads. So we need to make sure there's enough visitor parking for, when grandma has a birthday after COVID or whatever. Not that anybody's gathering for large family events nowadays, but one day they will again.
Right, well,
and there's-
we do have these roadways at 26 feet. Tom likes wide roadways regardless. And
Okay.
we have talked to the fire department. They will allow parking on one side of the street on that, so.
Okay, then just make sure that there's like signs that says you can park here or you can't park here, because I don't want to have people parking in the street and not have EMS be able to get through. So that was
Yeah, that was
basically
part
what
of
I
his
was.
comments. Yeah, he had those comments.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, for the parking calculations, one of our comments in the tech review was to amend or show on the development plan what's required to what's proposed for parking too. So that might clarify things too.
Okay, and that was what I was going to recommend, is that on one of the site plans, show the counts of how many you're providing. If you need to put like a little number of how many in each house or townhouse, how many public, guest spaces, how many the street could accommodate. But just, to know, and then if you're going to park on one side of the street, make sure that it's parked properly marked with signage so that EMS can get through if there's an emergency.
Yeah, okay.
That was my only concerns, and it seemed like Home Depot was worried about, or some of the neighbors might be worried about overflow parking, but I can't imagine someone parking at Home Depot and hiking to one of these places.
Well, they don't
I'm
want that.
worried
That's why
about-
we have a 6-foot fence between us and them. They requested that.
I actually think the fence is a good idea in terms of privacy.
Yeah.
For these units. My only concern would be like the first units, number 1 and 2, that are right by Owenfield, that they might not be as premium and might be difficult to lease or to purchase. I wasn't sure what the ownership was of this. Not that it really matters.
Yeah,
But
they've
those
got
are
that ravine though, not ravine, but that creek. So I I think they'll do fine there, but
Okay. Yeah, so that was my concern, because you have a lovely view of the Steak and Shake parking lot.
Well, and there is some fencing. I mean, it's 3 feet, but also landscaping too. So, I mean, there's some screening, not as significant as it is abutting the residential, but there's some.
yeah, we have a front face to it. Obviously, we have a little window so you can see us. But we do have the evergreen trees and the mounting there, so we do.
Yeah, and it's Winfield. It's not 23, so
Right.
it could be worse. It's what I think of like as a feeder road or a service road. But I don't see that this being as leasable or saleable as the other one, based on their location.
Well, that's why the resident manager will be in one of those, so.
Okay. The one question I did have, and I saw that there was a variance for signage, for temporary signage, that there was a request that the temporary marketing sign be allowed to remain for the duration of the lease-up period of the proposed development. How long do they anticipate that will take?
Good question. We didn't talk about that. We just said that we were going to use the same language that Schottenstein was going to use.
Oh.
Because they like that language better than ours. So,
okay. I guess I'm just concerned is I don't want to have, and Michelle and the others can chime in. I don't want to have a permanent like for sale or for lease sign on Owenfield Drive that you see in some areas of the city.
Yeah. So. Right. So this language supports what our current zoning resolution says. So they can have a temporary sign permit that's valid for 6 months, and it's up to staff's discretion to renew it. And typically, we would stop allowing the renewals if it's fully developed. So.
Yeah, and I think that language
fully occupied. Yeah.
Gives you a time.
Okay, so as long as there's a mechanism to say that enough is enough. Like I said, I permanent for lease sign with balloons and stuff off of Owenfield Drive.
Right.
So as long as Michelle is comfortable with the language and it's enforceable, then I'm happy. But that's just a concern of mine since there didn't seem to be a duration. It just seemed to ask for like a semi-permanent.
Yeah, there's a duration with the one that we're copying that we're utilizing from Schottenstein.
Okay. Then I think those are most of my comments. Was the site drainage retention plan, the parking spaces and the counts for that. I think you answered the dumpster issue, that there is not going to be a dumpster. That is correct. That has not changed. Okay.
That's good. Yep.
And then the signage. Yeah. So I'm good unless someone else has anything to bring up.
Well, if we can touch on signage, Christine, since you made a comment, I did notice another thing, Todd, for the monument sign. So the text call says that it has to be 20 feet from the right of way, which it does. But then the other, the second, there's another sentence of that code. Where is it?
Anna designed the sign. It's not my fault.
So it has to be set back a minimum of 20 feet from the right of way, and then also needs to be set back within 50 feet of the edge of pavement to the entrance of the parcel. So me too. So I questioned if this was 50 feet. I am gonna guess this is larger than 50 feet. So.
I don't know, but we'll check that. We can move that over and just adjust that fence a little bit if we have to.
Okay.
To have a view corridor. I don't think that's an issue. But so it needs to be 50 feet off that incoming roadway is what you're saying.
Yes.
My guess is that's probably about 30, just looking at it, but we'll double check.
Well, while we're zoomed in here, I think there's one thing in the staff comments that I kind of have a hard time seeing the hardship here, but it's in regards to this access point. in the requirement of it being, 200 foot from another access point or Owenfield Drive. And, it's a 25-foot difference. And I get, the response that you had sent, that was, they were trying to center that up against the 2 access points across the street with the Steak and Shake over there. But, I don't see where it would really have a significant impact if that was to go 25 foot further, to the west. And as far as, where that would come into the site, you're still going to be in between those 2 access points, just not as centered as it's shown. I just help me kind of understand, why that's a divergence, when really I don't think it doesn't seem like it would have a huge impact on the plan here if that was to shift over.
I don't think it would have a huge impact on the plan if it did shift over. Just typically we try to center things between the 2 curb cuts. But again, 25 feet, if that is what everybody is, looking for. Again, it doesn't really change anything for us. It makes that one driveway a little bit longer, that one unit, but we're still under 150 feet. So fire's fine. So, I've looked at it from that standpoint. It's just if there's as strong of a desire for 200 feet, we can certainly move it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason for that is just more of like a safety concern of having access points too close to a drive and having, maybe someone queuing up there or, having someone pulling out. And I think just, that 200 foot is, and I know we're talking about a 25-foot difference here, but it seems like a unnecessary divergence and just one thing less that you would have to ask for if we were to just shift that over. Again, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, if that's really a sticking point or anything, but that's just something that, I saw in there that, I thought was an easy fix.
I'd rather change it now before we go to Home Depot than after. So.
Yeah.
One of the concerns I had, when this came up during the staff comments, and I thought you could do it either way. I agree with Todd, but my concern is our cars that are traveling from the north and coming around that curve, your sight distance, you could be, the closer you get to that curve, there's potentially an accident that could occur. A car could be turning, can't see anybody coming down the road, and all of a sudden they're right on top of them. I understand the balancing issue between the two, and generally your rule is not harsh, but I think because of the curvature in the road, where it is right now, you got great sight distance either way, but you move it further to the west, and I'm getting a little concerned about the safety factor there of somebody that, you got a lot of people coming out of Home Depot, and like most drivers, they follow the path of least resistance. So they're gonna get out to get back home to do whatever they want to do, but down in that area, I think all of us have probably experienced it. I don't live in that area, but I think that everybody has experienced that some of those people that travel within those shopping centers and shopping areas travel at a far greater speed than they probably should be.
When we talked about this between the staff and the applicant, we did talk about that curve, and from my perspective, it was the curve that caused us to say we supported the divergence more than it was centering between the 2 driveways. But again, it is 25 feet and it can go either way, but it was the curve that pushed my opinion over towards the divergence.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate that explanation. You're right. I have been up in that area, and being so close, moving it closer to that curve may be more dangerous than where it sits from Owenfield Drive. So I agree. I think I'm good with it staying where it's at then. Well,
Mike, you can become our traffic engineer. Thank you.
I have no issues with where that road is because I don't think that's a heavily used path currently from the Home Depot. But with this development, it could be. And I agree, not everybody off of Owen Field obeys traffic laws like they should. So I would say that the divergence is not for it to be centered, but more of a safety factor. I would write that in your application that it's for safety because of the curve and not for, design aesthetic. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
I have a couple
Oh.
I have a couple quick comments. On D5, there's the gate detail for the emergency access, which shows, I think it's the 5-foot fence within an adjacent 5-foot fence. Is that the case, or is that where the split rail is? It's detail 8.
That gate, the fire department wants us to make that look like, so in that area, it is a 6-foot high privacy fence.
The 6 or 5?
6, we're asking for divergence from 5 to 6 for that between us and Home
Okay.
Depot.
Because you're calling out 5 foot on the detail.
Oops. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so if we're extending it, I'm okay. If it was just a freestanding, I thought that would look a little goofy.
No, it's again, the fire department wants that to fully open like
Sure.
2 10-foot wings or gates. So we're going to basically build it out of steel and attach the vinyl to the front of that to support.
Okay. And then it will have the Knox box, so it'll only be accessible from the fire department.
Yep. Knox box, all that fun stuff. But
Can you do me a favor and show me where this is real quick on the site plan? Any site plan will do.
yeah. Can you see it yet?
So it's
Yep.
the one that's, oh, yeah, that's
Right
what I thought.
there.
Thank you.
Yep.
So it's like right behind the Steak and Shake and the car wash. parking lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Darn fire guy wanted 2 ways in.
It's Todd Ferris.
Thank you.
I don't think we talked about the 6 foot of that fence, so just make sure to clarify that in the divergence request.
Okay.
Then I think in the staff review, there was talk about the building height. That's really not called out what the max height is. I'm assuming it's under the 50 feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's under 35 feet. It's probably, we'll put that, I'm surprised it didn't show up on the architectural details, but we'll put it up on these drawings as well, this one.
Okay. And then I know you're not doing really trash dumpsters. Is there going to be some sort of language in the requirements that trash cans are not to be in public view?
Yeah, that's a policy that their management enforces, but
Okay.
yeah.
I just know how small our garages are getting these days, and to put a trash can in there too is sometimes a challenge.
Anyone else? Holly, did you have anything more to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Do you have by chance Mark Freeman's email that you can share with us or his phone number so I can call him tomorrow so we can go out and meet with him?
Yes. And
You can email it to me.
Yep, I can do that.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to meet with him because, you know, we got to see it from his position down there. He's much lower, so
Mhm.
and then just show them where we can put stuff. But just looking at it, on the plan and everything else, I think we can make him much happier without doing a whole lot of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I will forward you his contact information, and I spoke with him on the phone yesterday, and he had interest in going to the site with somebody. So
Okay.
But and then speaking of Mark, I know you're tuning into the YouTube chat, and I see your comments, and I will save those and either pass them along to the applicant, or I'll pass them along to the applicant and the trustees. And for anyone else that's been on the YouTube chat room, again, this meeting was not open for public comment. However, we'll take all of the comment and pass them along to the board members. And then if you have any questions that you want to address prior to the hearing, you can email us. I will put my email on the screen. At Orange.
Hey,
Oh,
hey
sorry.
Michelle,
Yes.
is there any way the zoning commission can see those as well or get a copy of those?
Sure. Yeah, I will pass them along to the board
Okay.
members.
I just know this is a new process, so it'd be nice to kind of know what the public is saying as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle, can you let the public know when the trustees meeting will be so that if they want to attend that and provide input at that meeting, they can do so?
Yes, excellent point. It will be Tuesday, January 9th. The trustee hearing for this application will be Tuesday, January 19th at 6 p.m. And then you can tune in on the same YouTube channel link that you're watching here now.
And totally off topic, I saw today that the trustees are looking to have meetings back at 10 a.m. again.
That's news to me.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I know we've been considering changing the day of the day of the week of the meetings. It might be mid to Wednesdays, but
I saw them, they were trying to go back to 10 a.m., which I didn't think was going to be a thing. And if it is, I really hope that we don't have these zoning at 10 a.m., that they're the evening sessions.
mhm.
Yes, I would agree with Todd that that would limit a lot of our capability to attend these meetings. We do have jobs. On the
Well, I
side.
will pass those concerns along to the trustees tomorrow. We're having our organizational meeting. So as far as I know, it's still, I'm looking at our agenda. It's still proposed as the first and third Monday at 6 p.m. So unless there's news, I don't know. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I had one question before or whatever you guys do with these types of meetings. We did you had comments about our lighting plan. We've taken a look at that. There were a couple of different things that happened on that. One is they used your multifamily code, which is very, very extensive for the amount of light and everything else compared to the commercial overlay district here. So there was a difference on that, number one. And then number two, Tom usually gets his electricity installed and provided by AEP, and they provide and install the lights. We can't use theirs because the lumens on their light fixture are too great. They still use high pressure sodium of all things. and they're our providers, right? They're our leaders. So anyways, we're going to be going with an LED fixture to deal with this. Do you have a preference for the Kelvin? Right now they're saying 2700, which obviously is more incandescent, but is that okay? Or
I think that
think
would work.
there are guidelines in our code regarding the output because we had talked about how we prefer the warm LEDs as opposed to the cool LEDs. The cool LEDs, I think some people get a strobe effect from or something like that.
right. So 2700 is probably the warmer, right? If I remember right. The lower the number, the more it's like an incandescent versus.
Exactly. So I think Michelle just pulled up our code where it's like around 3000. So, but it's the warm LEDs, and that was a big issue with former people on the zoning commission.
Yeah. So we're looking at 16-foot height now and 2700 K and much less light fixtures. So it should make everybody happier.
Okay. So does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, it does. Since you pointed to the code that it says it in there, we will make sure that we have that that degree Kelvin that's called in the code. Because there were choices. And I wanted to pick the right one. Okay, good.
Anything else?
Not from our end.
Nope, I think we're good. And all right, so I guess meeting adjourned then, right?
Yes.
Do we have anything else?
No, that's it. I don't know if you tuned into the trustee meeting for the first 23 application, but I did include all of your comments in the staff report that I shared with the trustees. So they seem to like that. And hopefully, you know, again, your voice is passed along. So we appreciate your time reviewing these. And then we will expect public comment for the trustee meeting.
Okay,
Great.
great. Look forward to getting that information from you then.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for everybody's time and have a good evening.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
So we're
Michelle.
officially adjourned?
Meeting officially adjourned.
Officially adjourned.
Thanks.
Bye.